深く息を吸うんですよ。
僕は一体何を見せられているんだろう。
Well, for Disney adults, this is pretty much just their morning routine whenever they're in their favorite amusement park. We opened this week at the Sorno household where the mother was ill to cook for once, and yeah, no shade on Minamo, but your mom does it way better. Of course, her hubby agreed, and they acted more like newlyweds rather than the parents of two brats. Said brats kind of rightfully roasted them, until Mr. Sorno asked about the YouTube channels his daughter was sub to.
アリスピアチャンネルって知ってるかい?
Is it a little too early to be mixing your soup with your rice? I usually like to save it at the end. But yeah, while he didn't know about the actual isekai, he was looking to learn more about the app associated with it, which would likely lead to some unwanted attention if the head anchor of a major news network were to make a story about it. God knows what sort of clickbait articles TMZ is going to start publishing. This led to a really funny scene where Minamo revealed that she was just as bad at keeping secrets as your average social media addict. Not only did she speak some random English, but I love how she wasn't even eating anything here. Fortunately, her veteran mother managed to keep a cool head and actually managed to convince her husband that it might be a bad idea to pursue a potentially groundbreaking story. Yeah, okay, maybe this isn't actually the healthiest marriage if gaslighting is a thing. Of course, Minamo tried to make sure her dad completely forgot about this discussion. Do I even need to point out that this is another episode storyboarded by Nabashin? Later, Minamo told her friends about her nosy daddy, and for the most part, they agreed with her position of keeping things out of the sight of the paparazzi. However, Kaguri, who I'm starting to think is trying to compete with Nagase as the biggest meme in the show, revealed that she actually kind of wanted to meet Minamo's DILF. Kaguri confirmed to be a Rengoku stan. Hilariously enough, even Nagase of all characters pointed out the flanderization of her teammate, which, yeah, pot calling the kettle black there. Anyway, as nasty as the paparazzi would be, Nachi was a little more concerned about the problems the Alisphere already had on its plate with the Bad Snatch's constant invasions. Nagase tried to assure her that the princesses would be able to protect them, but in a nice bit of ambiguity, Nachi seemingly hinted that that was actually what she was concerned about. Like, of course, she wouldn't want to be attacked again, but as the last episode heavily implied, she had seemingly figured out, or at least had strong suspicion, that her friends were the princes that were risking their lives against the chest-obsessed pre-boys. With that, she left the group as usual to do her own preparations of sorts. And after about 6 minutes into this episode, we surprisingly got to the main plot of it. Yeah, everything up until this point was more foreshadowing for future events, and the main plot that was going to center around Nagase started around here. Now, normally, I would say this isn't the best way to structure a plot because the main plot should be the main focus, but considering what we're about to get, I'll withhold my complaints just this once. Because, as it turned out, Nagase was going out on a date in the Alisphere, which I remind you is a place where only girls can go. And sure enough, her partner turned out to be Aiko. Okay, to hell with it, just play the clip.
Just already!
Seriously, the only thing that could make these two any more gay would be to have them binge watch Flip Flappers together. Needless to say, they were just adorable together, and I'm also glad that Aiko learned the importance of personal space. During their date, they encountered an artist who I'm just gonna assume is gonna be a future victim of the week. But yeah, she drew pictures of her customers' faces, which look suspiciously more like character design sheets, but that's probably just me. And when she drew Aiko, she gave her some cubism. Well, that's certainly a unique form of caricature to say the least. Picasso is rolling in his grave out of jealousy. That aside, their date continued very swimmingly, with Aiko even giving Nagase some cute nails, which, yeah, even as just some stupid guy who's actually kind of grossed out by long nails, I do appreciate the detail they put into this nail pressing scene, as it did highlight the intimacy between the two. An intimacy that Nagase assured her fangirl wasn't just a part of the idol act.
監査してるつもりなんてないからね。友達と一緒に遊びに行くなんて当たり前のことでしょうが。
Ooh, I can actually hear the sound of the toy exec's heads exploding. The two also ended up unintentionally bonding over the fact that they were both victims of the band snatch, which of course Nagase tried to keep on the down low, until she saw Bess, who was clearly goading her into following him, and unfortunately bringing an abrupt end to this really cute date, which is probably the worst crime he's committed so far in the show. Granted, as an earlier scene showed, the band and their queen were of the belief that they were fighting for the greater good. We'll get more into that in just a bit, but I also did want to point out how it's kind of cool how they seem to be using both 2D and 3D animation on the queen. In close-up shots like this, she does seem to be 2D animated, but most of her dress and hands look very CG in wide shots like this. Doing it this way does act as an effective means of giving her a very uncanny and otherworldly appearance, which is really clever, and I got praise for it. Anyway, Nagase ended up falling best to an empty quarry.
戦隊ものの撮影じゃあるまいし。
This is that rock quarry in Ibaragi that they used to film those tokusatsu shows, isn't it?
With that, he honestly encouraged her to call in the other princesses, as he did want to fight all of them at once. Nagase complied, but was also planning on roughing him up until then. So she quickly changed into different casual clothes in between these shots, and then transformed. Yeah, unfortunately, this isn't like that other magical girl princess anime. Anyway, the queen unleashed Bess's inner furry, which allowed him to easily outmatch Nagase through the power of his chords. Fortunately, the rest of her team quickly joined in, and yeah, the animation this week wasn't the greatest, with Nagase even becoming a battle droid at one point, but the writing here more than made up for it.
私たちを悪と言ったか。ならばとお前たちが正義だとなぜ言い切れる？
Yep, in keeping with the aforementioned talk with the queen, Bess ended up getting really triggered when Nagase called him and his band evil. Yeah, he gave a fairly basic speech about how right and wrong are all in the eyes of the beholder, which for the band snatch, they seem to know something more about the Alice Spear that somehow seemed to not make it the paradise it was advertised as. I do kind of wish that he had elaborated a little more on this, because as is, it does feel a little hollow, though still better than whatever the hell Gita was trying to say last week. Moreover, as they hinted at the end of this episode, they were planning on making some big reveals next week, so I won't complain too much just yet. Besides, having a complex moral debate isn't exactly in Nagase's wheelhouse. What was in her wheelhouse were some strong, immutable morals that recognized that regardless of who was right or wrong in the big picture, one side clearly had made more victims than the other, including again Nagase herself. And having experienced that empty feeling of having their energy drained first and secondhand, she wasn't going to falter on her stance. A very powerful moment for the character who would otherwise be portrayed as the punchline of the team. With that, she, appropriately enough, used Aiko Shard to summon her funnel glow sticks, and, well, I'll let you see for yourself.
That was awesome!
And one rider kick later, she defeated Bess and forced him to retreat. And as we just said, the episode ended with Dran promising that he'd open the prince's eyes to the truth behind the Alice Spear. For a Nagase episode, this was appropriately a stellar outing. I'm honestly surprised at how much they managed to stuff into just one episode between a lot of good foreshadowing, character building, and yet they still had enough time for one of the most youthful G-rated dates I've ever seen. With a character like her, you would honestly think this episode would be a little more schizophrenic, but that wasn't the case at all. When you get down to it, a lot of the plot lines in this episode shouldn't work together as they don't really line up with one another between Minamo's nosy reporter dad, Nagase's date, and then the battle with Bess. And yet, thanks to some good direction and consistent flow, it just kind of worked out. Like, I'm no film expert or anything, I just get the feeling that things did end up flowing naturally. And as a result, we could appreciate all of these plot points, which included a lot of world building to some intriguing future events. I, for one, love it when it's hinted that the antagonist might have some more morally gray motivations, and am curious to learn about the dirty laundry behind the owl spear, which, yeah, I kind of sensed from day one. Until then, though, yeah, the main event of this episode was Aiko and Nagase's date, which was charming as all hell, even if you're not the biggest Yuri fan, because, come on, they're just cute together. That alone would have overall made this a great episode, but throw in some really promising developments for later, and you get yet another really strong outing this week. Nagase may be a bit of a space case, but at least she's also kind of base. Thanks for watching, and if you don't want the paparazzi to visit your place, well, maybe you can watch some of our other videos to keep them at bay. We've got something new coming out almost every day, including some bigger projects in the works. Look forward to Kamen Rider Gav, and until then though, for now my friends, and ooh, my commission on DeviantArt is finally done. And I hope that's just the first draft.